Guys, today we're going to be talking about bunting and whether or not it is relevant. As the only pitcher in the group, I probably bunted more than a lot of you guys because they decided to take the bat out of my hand and I just put the ball on the ground when I was still in the lineup. You guys, a little more athletic, get the ball in the air to the outfield. What do you guys got? How do you feel about it?
I'm a little rounder than these guys, so I was more with you.
I don't know about athletic. I've seen you stand on the top rung of a 12-foot ladder standing on top of a 30-foot scissor lift.
Yeah,
and not fall.
Yeah.
That's a fear factor.
I'm still a little nervous from that day. That was scary.
Can you see that strong guy?
But yeah, bunting, I mean, I think it depends on what level we're talking about, right? At the highest level, it seems to be less and less relevant, I guess is the word, but at the youth level, I mean, it is such a huge part of the game. It's such an amazing tool. I mean, there's, again, two kids who are both pretty fast and both pretty good bunters. I've seen them use it pretty frequently. I think it's definitely something you need to still know how to do, unless you're, 6'6", 230, putting the ball over the wall all the time.
I think if you're 6'6", 230, you should be able to bunt.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Yeah, the thing that I don't understand now, you watch the games on TV with the shifts, like, beat the shift. You guys hit ground balls into the shift all the time. When they void the third baseman for a lefty batter, beat him once or twice, that third baseman's gonna have to stay home.
Did someone just do that a
your
couple weeks
holes
ago?
are gonna
Was it
open up.
Robbie? Somebody just did it a couple weeks ago, I think.
I never understood that. You keep that guy honest, you keep him in place, and then your holes open up back. So when you roll over on a ground ball in the outer third of the plate, it falls in for a base hit because that third baseman's not over there.
Especially if you're a professional baseball player.
Lefty hitters who get shifted on should spend so much more time being able to drop that bunt on. I know you don't get paid the millions of dollars to get that little hit. You want to drive in runs, you want to hit the ball over the fence, I get that. But there's going to be a time where you need to drop that bunt down, and if you don't practice it and you're not good at it, your toolbox is not full.
Are there any teams that do actually bunt? Verge and Mike, you probably know this the most. You watch the
I would like to think that the national, you're talking about the pro level?
Yeah, pro level.
I think the National League, their style of play, because the pitcher is in the lineup, I think they're probably more bunt oriented, especially in the playoffs. It shows when you're facing the better guys out of the bullpen earlier in the games. For me, I think at the pro level and amateur level, there's two different things. And I was actually talking to Bobby Valentine about this a couple months back, and he told me, and if you look at the stats, I don't know the exact number, but at the pro level, when you sacrifice the runner to second base and you get one out, or if you just keep the runner at first and you remain with no outs, the percentages are almost the same of that guy scoring. So for me, I don't know if I would want to give up the out. And the way I manage my amateur team, I don't like giving up outs. And then all the other different elements come into play. Who's pitching, who's the next hitter, But the thing you have to look at is, I think at the pro level, and then we can talk about a little bit of amateur level, because I think it varies through the different levels, is, who's your next hitter too? Are you at the end of the lineup? Is he a double play candidate? If he's out on first base, do you have a slow catcher up that if he hits a weak ground ball, it's an automatic double play? So I think all that stuff goes into play. But at the amateur level, I think it's different. First of all, I think when you're young, everybody needs to learn how to bunt, learn how to bunt the right way, and make sure you get things down. I was a type of hitter. I was always 3-4 in my lineup. I probably bunted once in my entire life. Okay, but that doesn't mean that I didn't know how to bunt. It's just because I was never called upon to bunt. But at the amateur level, I think in the most
off of that real quick.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 3-4 guy, you put the ball in the gap, you put it over the fence, that's your style of play. In BP, would you bunt?
Oh, for sure. BP was always 2 or 3 bunts, get it down, hit and run, get them over. That's always establishing batting practice.
To counter that,
and you always practice.
I don't think I was quite the hitter that you were, but I was a 3-4 hitter most of my life also, and I dropped down bunt for hit all the time. Because I could. Yeah. I was decently fast, I knew how to bunt, I knew how to place it there, and if you're going to give it to me, and I'm going to start an inning off, and again, going back to the lower levels, I'm going to steal second and third. Why not do it? I might hit a homer my first at-bat, or a triple in the gap, right. But if you're going to give it to me, I'm going to take it.
And I think the key part in there is to start the inning.
And it's such a momentum shift. How many times have you guys been caught up in a baseball game, whether playing on a team or coaching, where that kid drops down a bunt and he beats that, and it just starts a big rally?
Yeah,
you know something.
Right.
The momentum's shifting. They start overthinking. And that's the key part at the amateur. Why I think the bunt is special, because if you're facing that dominant pitcher and they're just blowing the ball by you, you get him off the mound. You disrupt his rhythm. Plus, the error comes into play. At the pro level, everybody's better defensively. So, okay, you bunt a ball, it's 9 times, probably 10 times out of 10, I don't even know the odds, they're gonna make the out. At the amateur level, whether it's college or high school, you know, or all the levels we coach here on the Fury, you put a bunt down, there's a chance that ball's going down the right field line, and you're gonna start some stuff. So all that stuff comes into play, I think, when we talk about the bunt.
A 16-year-old third baseman, that play's not exactly routine for him every time.
No.
Yeah, you don't always have the best third basemen.
Yeah.
You know, you got somebody you might be able to hit that you're putting over there to keep in the lineup. And when people talk about bunting, it's usually, everybody thinks about the sacrifice bunt. But there's a lot of different bunt opportunities that come up with the game. We didn't even mention the squeeze. I mean, those opportunities, you're mentioning who's up next, who's pitching, what the flow of the game is like, and you have the opportunity to score a run, you have no chance to put the ball in play off of this pitcher with this guy up.
Yeah.
The bunt's a weapon, and I agree with what you said at the major league level. Those third basemen make those plays, and regularly it's unbelievable. But in my opinion, as the game has gotten to launch angle and hit the ball over the fence and gazillions of strikeouts, I get it, and I get the home runs sell, and it makes money. But you asked him, as that big bopper that he was, did you practice your bunting? You know, as a baseball player, I talk about this all the time, you gotta fill your toolbox with as many things as you possibly can. Your hitting skills, your throwing skills, your fielding skills, your IQ, your base running, the whole thing. You have to have your bunting tool, whether you're Judge or Stanton. If indeed there somehow becomes a time, it may never happen, everybody may laugh at this, that for some reason Judge has to bunt because he's hurt, we don't know it. He's got a bad something and he really can't swing. He pulled an oblique. You don't have anybody left on the bench in a big spot in the game. He's got to hit, and we got to bunt, got to squeeze, whatever. Yeah. To not be able to bunt, to me, is unfathomable. It's with practice. Anybody who's made it to a fairly high level of baseball should be able to do it. And the little guys who aren't as good should really work on it and be able to do it.
And I think they have to understand the importance of it. You know, I think today when kids lay down a bunt, they're like, okay, I just laid down a bunt, I made it out. No, you lay down that bunt, you're giving yourself up for the team. To get that runner second, to get that guy.
I think it's probably more of the opposite too. They lay down a bunt, they think, oh, coach thinks I can't hit, I stink, this, that, and all of a sudden, there's these negative connotations instead of knowing.
And that's our job as coaches, to make sure these kids understand and they're rewarded when they have a quality at bat, or when they drop down the bunt and advance the runner, how important that is, and reward them to make sure they understand, because it is a big part of the game.
It is. And what I was doing with those guys when we were on that run, we didn't bunt a lot, but when we bunted in the bunt situation, we always bunted for a hit.
Yeah.
Because they were good enough, they could do it,
Yep.
Put more pressure on the defense, worked a lot. We're not giving up an out, we're trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's our take on bunting. Make sure you fill your toolbox, and no matter what, you know, at every level, whether it's relevant or not to you, make sure you have that. You want to be a good baseball player, be a complete baseball player, fill that toolbox, and we'll see you guys next time.
And make sure you bunt strikes.
Facts.
Don't pop it up either.
Yeah, one other thing, you may be the 3-4 hitter right now, but the next level, you may be the 7-8 hitter.
Facts.
Very true.
Yes,
Very
sir.
true.
Guess that happened to me.
I hope you got that.